And we welcome you to Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizers.
Still going.
And it is the final installment of Power Rankings before Dan Zeus returns to his cave of Power Rankings. And he starts chiseling away. Tink, 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 in preparation for the 2022 campaign. So it's kind of a look back, Dan. It's kind of a look forward. Super Bowl 56 is in the books. The Rams are champions of the world. And we are set to break it all. We are set here to break it all down.
What about the idea of the Zeus Thunderbolt? I planted in there like the sword in the stone, and take a slumber.
I got an idea. How about some humility? How about that? Well, that's how we start this show out, with a little bit of humility and not hubris, all right?
All right.
Jeez, you see the one.
The last day of school.
Exactly, yeah, senioritis, this guy right here. All right, you still have the Rams at number one. I disagree with that. I don't think they're the best team in football, but go ahead, whatever.
At a certain point, the voice of the Chargers has to give the Rams credit. Unbelievable performance.
Cheap shot. That is a cheap shot. I just don't think they're the best team. You say it all the time. It's not the power standings. It's the power rankings. They're not the best team.
Listen, you could quibble about that, but ultimately, if you're doing this exercise 48 hours after the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl champion has to be number one, and the Rams deserve it because they went through the peaks and valleys of the regular season. They went through adversity, and they found a way to make it through the tournament. And I thought this was a testament to the value of star power. And it's cliche at this point when you talk about this team, but when they did go get Odell and they went and they got Von Miller and they made the trade and said, Goff's not the guy, let's go get Stafford, it all worked out beautifully. And you saw it in the fourth quarter on that 80-yard drive where Kupp had about 5 conversions and the touchdown, and then Aaron Donald fulfilling his destiny of being a Super Bowl champion and making the impact play.
And I love that part of the storyline, right? Individuals like Aaron Donald and Eric Weddle. This is not the NBA. This is not an individual sport. There is so much circumstance and situations that dictate whether or not you become a world champion. So to have the best player in the NFL for the last half decade win a Super Bowl, that's the story that we want. Aaron Donald deserved to be a Super Bowl champion, as dominant a force as he has been. And guess what? He was the dominant force when it needed to be there. And it was right there on that play. And by the way, what are you doing, Bengals, having P run in the backfield? They know you're not running the ball. They can put an extra man in the box. That's neither here nor there. That's already been debated. The thing moving forward, and as we rank which team is number one in the NFL, I understand what you're saying. They won the championship. But I'm kind of looking forward, I guess, a little bit and trying to figure out, because we know, and we talked about this repeatedly, Dan, this was chips in the middle. Like, this is this year. We want to be in the Super Bowl when the Super Bowl is at the house where the Rams play, and that's SoFi Stadium. So we're going to go get Von Miller. We're going to sign Odell Beckham. We're going to trade 2 firsts for Matthew Stafford. And now Von Miller's a free agent. Odell Beckham's a free agent. Andrew Whitworth is mulling retirement. He's already 40 years old. That is not easy to do, playing offensive line. And now we're hearing murmurs that Sean McVay is looking at that Tony Romo check going, you know what, I kind of like the idea of what that guy makes for what he has to do. I'm all right with that.
I kind of like that idea. That's my McVay.
That's a little more grain, a little more grit.
That board that we just showed, it just feels a little misleading.
Aaron Donald's not retiring.
Sean McVay, of course, this is Super Bowl. We're coming after Super Bowl week where these guys are just being pelted with questions about everything, including their futures. So, yes, if Sean McVay ends up going to a booth for $20 trillion, if Aaron Donald walks away as a champion and a first ballot Hall of Famer, yes. But, like, for instance, Robert Woods, one of the best number 2 wide receivers in the league, he's not going anywhere. In fact, he'll be back from a torn ACL. Odell Beckham, terrible luck there with hurting his knee again, but he loves it in Los Angeles. He said he'd be willing to take less money to stay here. And then you have Stafford still at the peak of his powers, coming off a tremendous playoff run. I just think, listen, if we go through free agency and we go through the draft and things start to go a little sideways, I could see taking him out at number 1 in this exercise. But the champions for now, for me, need to be there.
Whatever. Let's get to the other sideline and the Bengals and what was so close. This one, and look, we know the stories, right? It's almost cliche. You said the word cliche earlier. I'll say it again. You lose the Super Bowl, things tend to get sideways, right? So as we look at the Bengals moving forward and what went wrong, they had it. They had a 4-point lead with 6 minutes to go. Tyler Boyd drops a pass that would have converted a first down. Who knows how much more time they might have been able to take off the clock with that 4-point lead. Maybe get that big leg of Evan McPherson to kick a field goal, make it a full touchdown. Didn't happen. The pass was dropped. There were some questionable calls on the final drive. We don't know how healthy Joe Burrow was, but now you have him ranked at number 4. And man, I wonder if it was that magic season, when things went exactly how they had to go. 3 turnovers from the Titans when they weren't really playing great football offensively for the Bengals. They were able to hang in there. But then you see the way they played the run and shut down the Rams' rush attack. The fact that they were in the lead in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes to go. It's really hard for me to process sort of what are the Bengals moving forward.
Sure. And I'm glad that this is your outlook on the team, Money, because I woke up this morning and opened up the computer and my mentions already Cincinnati fans furious. How are we at 4? We just almost won the Super Bowl. But what you're saying is exactly right, which is this was a special run for Cincinnati. This is a team that was 10-7, that with a couple weeks left in the regular season was a team that seemed to be right on the precipice of not even going to the playoffs. Then you get hot and you have a lot of these crazy wins that will forever stick with the fan base in a positive way. But at the same time, there are issues here. The fact that they came within a couple plays of winning the Super Bowl when they cannot protect the quarterback. Joe Burrow took the 3rd highest amount of sacks in NFL history this season. He took 19 sacks in 4 playoff games, which was 7 more than the next highest total in the history of the league. So for me, Cincinnati, in addition to being Destiny's darling for much of the playoffs, they have a clear area of weakness. Now you could say on the positive end of the money, you know what you need to attack, and that is that offensive line.
Yeah, and I think the O-line was so bad. I mean, what was their pass rush win rate? I think it was 18%, the lowest of any game in the NFL this season. But I think that also masks some of the issues they have at corner. And that's certainly they picked on Eli Apple, and a lot of teams picked on Eli Apple all season long, and ultimately that's where Cooper Kupp got both of his touchdowns. So that's something they're going to have to figure out. The pieces were able to be put together just perfectly, right? And again, it just felt like everything had to break their way. So I'm assuming, and there's no reason why they can't do it. I love Logan Wilson, love Trey Hendrickson up front. So you've got, I think, a stud at both levels. Von Bell was a great signing. So Awuzie was great. In the second, they have great players, but I do think there are going to need to be fortifications here if they're going to win the AFC North again.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think the Bengals should be lower than 4 in this exercise?
I do. I absolutely do.
They're in the top 10.
Yeah, I think they're in the top 10.
You got them around 7.
But you know what? So let's do this. Let's shift, because I think this is where this conversation, to the victors go the spoils. The Bengals won the AFC. They were in the Super Bowl for the first time in 33 years. Let's celebrate them. The Rams won the Super Bowl. They are champions for the first time as Los Angeles Rams. Let's celebrate them. But now we look forward, and I think I would have had your team that you have at number 2 right here, the Chiefs, at number 1. Okay. I still believe that they are the best, and I would have had the Bills at number 2, and I would put it there. I think both of those teams sat at home and watched the Super Bowl and went, what are we doing? How are we sitting here watching this game play out like this, knowing what we would have been capable of doing in this contest?
And yes, I'll never forget it as long as I live. One of the most stunning developments in the history of professional football for me was the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs meltdown in the AFC title game. And I saw it as an anomaly. I saw it as this Bengals mojo and getting swept up in it. So I don't worry about Kansas City long term. I certainly don't worry about Mahomes, despite how poorly he played in the second half of that game. And then I look at them and I look at their roster and who they have coming back. And now they have an offseason where I could see them really addressing what they need to address. Because when you look at the playoffs, Tennessee sacks Burrow 9 times. The Rams sacked Burrow 7 times, including 6 times in the second half. The Chiefs got to Burrow once in that game. They need to address that front 7, get some more punishers of the quarterback, and I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, to me, the big issue for them is they built a darn good offensive line. It was just a better run-blocking offensive line than a pass-blocking offensive line. And that's how you got to see the Bengals get home with 3 repeatedly in the second half. And a lot of that was coverage, and the Bengals were playing great coverage. And you credit the Bengals for that defensive scheme and Rumo and what he was able to put together to just frustrate and clearly cause some confusion for Patrick Mahomes in the second half of that game. But to me, it's so hard to contend with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes. There's just no cheat code for that on any team, anywhere. And it's hard for me to imagine them not being right back in the thick of it as the potential number 1 seed in the AFC. And that then goes to, how did the Packers offense completely shut down in the divisional round as we get to the Packers, who are ranked number 5 in your rankings. And I would assume they were looking at this Super Bowl going, are you kidding? Like, this is really what's happening in the Super Bowl right now?
Right. And a couple weeks ago, we did our Power Rankings award, the Rankies, and I had the Packers winning the award for the team that betrayed me because I had Green Bay at number 1 for the last 7 weeks of the regular season into the playoffs, and then they flop against San Francisco. That said, I feel like, just like with Kansas City, if they bring back their team, the core of their team, I think they'll be right back in the mix, be a 12 or 13 win team and set up for a nice playoff run. What happens when you get to January? All bets are off at this point. There is a stink on this team when you get to the tournament, but I'm talking about the bigger picture regular season, which is what's coming up next when we talk about what's going on. Now, of course, we cannot ignore the very real issue of Aaron Rodgers, who the acrimony between player and team seems to have cooled, but you never know what's really going on with this guy. Would he retire potentially? Packers Nation and the entire NFC is waiting to see how this plays out because Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers drops into the 20s in this exercise.
Again, it's hard for me to reconcile. How do you score 10 points in the divisional round at home? You know, when you close the season with 36 against the Rams, 45 against the Bears, 31 against the Ravens, 24 against the Browns, 37 against the Vikings. What happened in that game?
They got tight. They played tight,
right?
But,
and that's just it's crazy. It is so hard to process that we ended up with the Super Bowl that we ended up with in Rams and Bengals. And I'm with you. And I think who knows, how committed Aaron Rodgers is, but with Davante Adams and with Aaron Rodgers as well, Davante Adams is a free agent and reportedly having zero interest in being franchised. And he's going to dig his heels in if, in fact, that's the case. And Aaron Rodgers, of course, the reports that so conveniently came out on Super Bowl Sunday and overshadowed a little bit of those two squads, that he is set to earn $45 million a year if he stays in Green Bay.
Good work.
Those two guys come back. And again, I feel like.
And Davante Adams isn't coming back. If Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back, and Aaron Rodgers is not coming back, and Davante Adams isn't coming. So we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. But
do you think if their roster returns intact, do you think it's a better roster than the Rams if they bring their guys back?
It's probably a better roster.
I think so too.
But you
especially on the offensive line, and you get healthy there, and you have Davante Adams back. To me, it's a better roster than. And you said it. Look, the playoffs are weird. You know, Eli Manning. Think about Eli Manning's 2 Super Bowl runs. It's everything. 9 through 16.
The soft underbelly.
Second quadrant that we will focus on in mere moments. Teams that are looking to make the jump. We will do that next. A couple on there that you will hear our Cynthia Freeland talk about. Is she penciling in the Raiders as a potential Super Bowl threat after hiring of Josh McDaniels? Cynthia Freeland uses math to talk about who's in, who's going all the way, and who's out. That's next.
Raiders. this moment. We worked so hard.
Playing the biggest stage ever. Been dreaming about this since I was 6.
When we play our best, they don't got a shot.
Oh, football, yeah!
That's from under center. Throws the fade. Cooper Kupp got it!
You are a bad
Let's go!
Super Cooper! Let's go! Don't let up! He's scared! You need to make a play to win it. Just so y'all know, and he can pass. Made it twice. Made it twice.
That's what I'm talking about!
I want it!
The sidelines empty. Rings for the Rams. A Lombardi trophy for Los Angeles.
You got one, baby! You got one, baby! You deserve it! World champ, baby!
It had to be the little boy from Brookline.
It's Super Bowl 56. The Los Angeles Rams are world champions.
And we got Power Moves presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. She is the curator of composite numbers, the premier predictive analyst in all the land. You find all her findings from that Monte Carlo method over at NFL.com/Freeland, F-R-E-L-U-N-D. It is Cynthia Freeland here to look forward to the 2022 regular season following that Rams celebration. Cynthia, are you ready for projections that will come to fruition about 11 months from now?
I mean, it's been 24 hours plus a few more since the Super Bowl. So absolutely, everything I say is going to be absolutely 100% spot on because nothing's going to change in free agency.
I respect our restraint to wait like almost 48 hours to roll out another power ranking.
And it was too long. This should have fired off no more than 4 hours post Super Bowl confetti falling from the SoFi sky. So let's get to it, Cynthia. A team that missed the tournament this year that will power move into the playoffs in 2022.
Well, Dan Hanzus, I don't even want to talk about where you have this team ranked because pretty much I don't know if you've revealed it yet. But the Panthers finished 4th in their division. But the division got significantly better, meaning the opportunity for them, because that guy Tom Brady left. Well, he's gone. And then, of course, you've got some new situation there for the Saints, a new coach. I understand that it's some of the same faces there. But I think the opportunity here with Christian McCaffrey returning and that young defense, remember, they do get J.C. Horn back, the corner they drafted in the first round last season. So add all those things together, plus some very strategic free agent moves. And I think the Panthers could be that team that kind of goes worst to playoffs. Let's go worst to playoffs.
All right. That's fair, Cynthia. I hear what you're saying, and thinking about, okay, that's where it's kind of a weird exercise.
Division's open. Division's wide open.
It's Christian McCaffrey now is back in play in terms of understanding this team. However, I struggle with the way the arc of this regime under Matt Rule and the inability to locate a quarterback. So maybe they jump into that playoff range if they have a really nice free agency and draft class. But since that hasn't happened yet, I have to base it on where I see them now, which is still kind of a mess. But I see where you're going on that.
Yeah, open division. Look, no Tom Brady, no Drew Brees, no Sean Payton. It's
when did you turn
open.
into Larry David?
Larry, I guess it was from that commercial. All right, we'll move on. I like it, though. I like what you're thinking. My thought was the Falcons will be the team to watch.
Oh, no.
In the NFC South. No. It's one last run for Matt Ryan. Storybook ending. That always happens in the NFL. All right, team that you could see making a power move into the Super Bowl.
Ooh. The Raiders. I can't do it. I probably shouldn't have even tried this doing that because now we have
Right now?
Film.
I was mad when she went because I knew where it was going. Explain yourself, Cynthia.
Look, when I look at the Raiders, they've got Josh McDaniel now there, and the front office has been aligned, not just in this situation at the Raiders, but they've been aligned since they were in New England. And when I look to see, you got Max Crosby, and by the way, you need an excellent pass rusher, and Max Crosby was awesome. And by the way, this Raiders front in general was the highest pressure front per next-gen stats the entire season through. So between those things, and then the opportunity, like you're choosing between two good outcomes here. We're hearing rumors that they're going to stick with Derek Carr, all good there, but ultimately now you can build around him and create an opportunity for them to succeed. So when I look at the Raiders, they could be in good shape here. I mean, this is a tough division. Obviously, the Chargers, they've got the best play-by-play in the business. So that's a really good reason why they'll do well. But yes, the play-by-play man matters a lot here. But other than that,
And just money, try to step aside like the paycheck that is in your mailbox, and I'm sure it's very nice.
The lightning bolt on the upper left corner.
Yeah, and just give Cynthia's right. This team is pretty close to making a move here.
You want me to address that? So here's my issue. 2 critical points that they'll have to fix. And look, they can do that. They have some money to spend, but I don't know if they're going to re-sign Derek Carr, so now his number jumps from 20 to whatever it's going to be, which takes a little bit of money out of those coffers. They need secondary. Their secondary is a complete disaster. And in the AFC West, you mentioned it, Cynthia, you're talking about Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. If you're going to make your way into the Super Bowl, you probably got to win the division, at least get one home game, and I can't see them making that jump. I love the hire of Josh McDaniels. I think he's going to do great things. Look, the offensive line also needs some fixing, particularly on the interior. It was super leaky. But, oh yeah, and they need a number one receiver to complement Darren Waller. So there's some work to be done. But I do like the coaching hire, and I love, just kind of the way that Josh McDaniel has built that coaching staff.
And if you give Derek Carr more money, you actually can free up some short-term space on the cap to go get players and make a run this year. If you believe in Derek Carr as a guy who can get you to the Super Bowl.
Oh, you're the one now.
I was waiting for you.
Normally for
I was
me,
waiting for you to savage Carr, but I think all the David Carr pushback on you, you're getting a little gun shy now, but that's fine.
Or maybe I'm content if they keep him around with a long-term extension.
All right, on the other side of this, Cynthia, who's the team that reverse power moves? The old throw it in reverse and could back right out of the playoffs in your mind?
Well, I think it's going to be trendy to say the Rams have to sign all their free agents. But let's look at the Niners. The Niners have to figure out their quarterback situation, right? I don't know exactly what all these rumors. I bet you now that I say that, Jimmy Garoppolo signed some crazy extension and whatever. We won't even be talking about this. But long story short, they need to figure out quarterback, and then they need to figure out their secondary. And those two things in this division will be very tricky. And like I said, it's going to be trendy to say which Rams will get re-signed, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that I'm actually looking at the Niners. They had a bunch of they spent a lot of money, and now they got pretty close. And now is it going to continue or not? And what goes on with the Seahawks? Because you have to remember the entire division is crazy as well. And then the Cardinals, that's mayhem as well. So it's really going to depend on what happens in the rest of the division here with this one.
All right, I'm going to get the crowbar out, and I don't want to cause malice to the machine, the robot in your boudoir, but I'm going to crank it open. And if you're saying that the Niners losing Jimmy G potentially could lead to them exiting the playoffs, and you talk about the Panthers just need a quarterback to get to the playoffs. Are you putting Jimmy G on the Panthers, changing the fates of two teams? Does Jimmy G have that power in his body, that beautiful man?
That man would look excellent in Carolina blue. I mean, there's really not a color he wouldn't look good in, but still, he would look really good. No, I'm definitely not doing that. But I am saying that this is a situation where they spent all that draft capital to get Trey Lance, and then we don't know what we've got there. So it's big roll the dice moment for them.
Well, I guess that runs contrary to my the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 57. I'm a big believer in Trey Lance. I think that offense is going to go next level with him as a running option and what they like to do, running the ball, how physical they are. Nick Bosa's just a psycho on the other side of the ball and will continue to be the straw that stirs that drink. But hey, we're only 11 months away from figuring out who's right and who's wrong. Cynthia, we appreciate it. Again, you can follow everything Cynthia does at NFL.com/Freeland, F-R-E-L-U-N-D. And keep an eye out on her Instagram page for her niece, who's got a cannon for a leg. Howitzer. When we return, we play the role of GM and try to solve all these offseason quarterback issues that have already crept up just 48 hours after the conclusion of the 2021 campaign. Next. Back on Power Rankings, presented by Energizer. Here we go, our third of 4 quadrants, the 8-pack, including teams that are just on the outside looking in going into the 2022 campaign. Maybe some moves will move them up into that second quadrant, and they can be part of the tournament. You see the Seahawks there, not used to seeing that. At 7-10, they finish the season. They find themselves outside of the tournament the first time in, well, really, the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era. So let's start there. Dan, are we still going to have a Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era moving forward in Seattle?
It seems like we will. Things calm down a little bit. Isn't it weird? A year ago, Russell Wilson's agent releases a list of teams that he would be open to being traded to.
Bears.
Yeah, so things got into a weird place, but it got calmed down a little bit now, and Carroll's obviously back at 70 years old. So it does seem like, to me, it's much more likely they try to go one more ride together and see what they can do. Now, they need to do some things. They need to improve their pass protection. They got to fix elements of their offense, third down conversions. They've been woeful for a couple of years now. But I see this kind of staying where it is for at least one more year.
Yeah, look, and I think so much of it, if you're talking about a rebuild, you got to have a lot of A, young talent, B, draft picks. They don't really have a lot of that. DK Metcalf is young talent, but you look at the defensive side of the ball, and like you said, there's a lot of work to be done there. So this is a team that's constructed more for win now, figure out a way to tweak some things, like you said, fix that offensive line, get your third down offense fixed, and that makes a heck of a lot more sense than trading Russell Wilson and trying to find a quarterback as you're going to completely rebuild without the things that you need to rebuild.
Absolutely. How about Kyler Murray? Let's stay in the NFC West.
Weird one.
It is.
It is. He scrubs his Instagram of everything but 2 pictures, including all the Cardinals references. Then a report leaks. I think it was Chris Mortensen who put it out there that Kyler is not well thought of in the locker room, that he's a finger pointer, and that he is upset that he's taken all the incoming for the failures at the end of the season. This was his response on Twitter at K1. I play this game for love, my teammates. Believe in me, all of this nonsense is not what I'm about, never has been, never will be. So love me or hate me, I'm going to continue to grow and get better. What would I do if I were the Cardinals? I'd say we have done nothing but surround you with talent, invest countless draft picks, trades, free agent deals with wide receivers and running backs. James Conner was great this year. They have done everything they can, which, by the way, starts with drafting a quarterback at number 1 when they had just taken a quarterback the previous year with their first-round selection, and taken a quarterback who clocks in at 5'9" and is unconventional by all standards. To me, that's a franchise putting a lot of faith in you individually. So I would hope this is something they can work out. And again, if I were Steve Keim in the front office, I would just say 2 years. At the very least, you got 2 years with us.
And by the way, it's kind of, if it's true that he's upset behind the scenes that he's being seen as the scapegoat, that entire premise is built on soggy foundation, because I feel like Cliff Kingsbury has been getting more heat for the collapse
100%.
of his team.
100%.
Not Kyler.
Yeah.
I mean, it could come for Kyler next year, but that's not where it is now.
Look, 4 interceptions, 6 sacks against the Rams in their final 2 games, the final one of the regular season that cost them the division, and then the playoffs. I get it. You're upset. Stings. You know, it started out with so much promise, it ended horribly, but I would assume they'll get past it. The one that's probably the most interesting on this list is yours, Dan. Baker Mayfield and the Browns.
I think the Browns are in a tough spot here.
In a tight spot.
Tough spot, Mikey. Because, yes, the bloom is off the rose with Baker Mayfield, the former number 1 overall pick. But, and you look at things, and again, this draft class, and we're going to have Daniel Jeremiah on the show to talk about it, it's kind of a funky QB draft class where there's nothing really jumping out. So making a bold move to, say, trade Baker and go after a young quarterback, that doesn't quite work, especially the win-now roster that they have built on both sides of the ball. And then you look, all right, maybe we'll trade. It's like, well, all right, is Jimmy Garoppolo, for instance, an upgrade over Baker Mayfield?
Right.
I think they're going to end up staying pat, and a lot of that is because they just don't think they have a true upgrade out there unless a Kyler Murray or an Aaron Rodgers falls into their lap.
Yeah, and I think for the Browns, the question becomes, you know, we're not inside the building. We do not disclose injuries in this league, you know, regularly with honesty. So how beat up was he? You know, if it's as bad as some people suggest, then yeah, you run it back and you try to give it another shot. The problem is, again, the timing of this all. You know, you've almost kind of, it's hard to have a lame duck quarterback. We saw what happened in Washington with Kirk Cousins, and it just gets weird. It's hard to win with that pall that's kind of cast over the franchise with uncertainty around what's supposed to be a franchise quarterback, especially when he was selected number 1, and yet you're not willing to commit to him long term. So I don't envy the position they're in. What I would envy if I were other teams is that roster, because it's an awesome roster. And if they can get one just dominant receiver, I think it'll change things.
All right, one more, because this would potentially be an upgrade in Cleveland. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings.
Yeah, this one's hard, right? Because Kevin O'Connell is part of that Shanahan tree, right? So we know how much Kyle Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins.
Loves it.
And loved working with Kirk Cousins. And again, this is a team on offense with Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. They are ready to win right now. Defensively, they've got a ton of pieces that I'm sure a lot, even though they're a little bit older on that side of the ball, like this to me is a team that I don't know what the alternative is. That's what it would come down to. And I don't mean to play that game and just kick the can down the road, but I'm not quite sure what you bring in lieu of Kirk Cousins to work with that group of players that you would feel better about.
New coach, new GM, maybe you free up some cap space and have a fresh start. But you're right. I think they're close enough to contention where you don't cut
I think of all these, the one to keep an eye on most, believe it or not, is Baker Mayfield, former number 1 overall pick. Who was ever guessed? All right. When we return, we look to the future. That's right. The combine is right around the corner. The draft is coming up in a couple months. The man that rules the roost on this topic, Daniel Jeremiah, will join us next and project where that man, Kenny Pickett, is going to land in 2022. Back here on Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Well, for all intents and purposes, moving forward, this is the quadrant you want to see, because we are headed to the Combine and then the NFL Draft, and you will see these squads, 25 through 32, in the top 10, projecting which players will play savior. And here is our man, Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 1.0. I think by the time the draft rolls around, that gets up to like 5 or 6 or maybe 6.3. Trades are involved, all that sort of thing. So let's bring him in. The hashtag, his name's synonymous with the draft. It's hashtag DJSZN, I think is what the kids like to do. It is Daniel Jeremiah at Move the Sticks. And listen, I just want to point out, as someone, DJ, I consider you a friend, but I just don't like the flippancy. The flippancy that comes with draft. Hey, man, I'm really swamped with tape. You know, I watched like 15 guys today, so I'd love to get back to you, but that's what we get. It's what we get every day moving forward.
It's like the excuse that some people make. Well, I'd love to get together with you, but I got the kids. I can't make it out. Like, and it's at a certain point, it's like that is a valid excuse, but do you believe it ultimately?
First of all, guys, just explain one thing to me. Is this like power rankings after the Super Bowl? Is this like an open book test? Is that what the equivalent is here? Is that what we're working with?
This is what you would call an essay. This is like there are no questions, there are no multiple choice answers. It's just, hey, free form writing. It's whatever you want it to be.
We're rolling in the big TV with the VCR and the teacher's taking a nap.
We saw the mock draft, the top 10. There's the quarterback right there, DJ. Kenny Pickett at number 9 to the Broncos. It's always about the quarterbacks, right? That's kind of what gives the draft some sizzle. Share with us the number 1 quarterback you have going off your board, your thoughts on him.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett is, to me, he's the most ready-to-play guy. And I think when you look at this Denver Broncos team, they need a ready-play quarterback because the rest of this roster is in really good shape. I mean, they've got weapons all over the place. They've got key pieces on defense. They need somebody that can come in and upgrade the position. Kenny Pickett does that. He's very accurate. He's got great touch. He's one who works extremely fast through his progressions to get the ball where it needs to go. Not the biggest, not the strongest arm, but I think he's the most ready. That's why I thought it made sense there for the Denver Broncos.
And it's interesting with the Broncos because this is a team, obviously, I know they had Peyton Manning there for a stretch, but you have to go back to Elway to find a guy that they developed and then had a long-term stay with the team. And this one feels like so many of the other Broncos prospects where it's no slam dunk. So how concerned should Broncos fans be, considering all we keep hearing is this is not a good QB class? Where does Pickett fit in with this?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. I mean, look, none of us know for sure how these guys are going to pan out. We can go back to the 2017 draft, and I don't think there were a lot of folks that expected Patrick Mahomes and even Deshaun Watson to do what they did upon entry into the NFL. So that gives you some hope that you could get more than just a 2 or 3 or 4 year stopgap quarterback here with a guy like Kenny Pickett. He's not in that same class as those guys I just mentioned, but I think he's more than serviceable. And I don't know that they need more than that. With all the pieces they have in place, just get a solid, sure guy, and I think Kenny Pickett's got a chance to be that.
Well, DJ, it's a perfect lead into our next conversation. You saw there on 25 through 32 the 2 New York teams and new head coach in New York with Brian Daboll. You saw how he was able to develop Josh Allen. Let's start with the Giants and just your thoughts on what they should do with 2 picks in the top 10.
Well, I think they're fully committed to Daniel Jones, guys. I really do. I think this draft is going to be about trying to support him, and you can do that a couple different ways. I think, first of all, you've got to address that offensive line. I would expect they would try and do that in free agency, even though they're up against the cap. They're going to have to move some money around. But if they can't get it done there, with these picks here, these early picks in the top 10, one of them has to be an offensive lineman. Akeem Ekwonu, to me, from NC State, would be a great fit for them. He is just he's a powerful dude, man. He can get after you and finish you in the run game. So I love what he brings to the table. I think he'd be plug and play. And then Evan Neal from Alabama is another one I could see, in that range for the Giants. So one of those picks is going to be an offensive lineman. And then I would imagine probably an edge rusher with the other one. And this draft is littered with talent there. So they could afford to wait if they wanted to and get one with their second first.
DJ, I'm walking the concourse at Super Bowl 56. And I'm seeing all the fathers and sons from Cincinnati, and I'm talking about 35-year-old sons, 40-year-old sons, people my age with their old man. And I'm thinking to myself, my dad back east, we haven't watched a Jets Super Bowl together yet. When are we going to walk the concourse together at the big game? Now we look at this draft. It's such a pivotal one for Gang Green here. We have 2 top 10 picks. You see them going all defense here. Why does that make the most sense? Because I don't want them to repeat the mistakes of the Darnold era and not build around the kid at QB. Why focus on D at the start?
Well, I think you bring up a very good point there, Dan. And I think we're going to have to wait to see what happens in free agency. As you know, they have a ton of money to spend, so they can go address some of these needs, and that'll alter their plans as they get towards the draft. This defense was notoriously awful, as you know from watching them this year. They need help at all 3 levels. And this draft is a very good, especially up front on the defensive line. It's a good group there. So you start looking at the Aiden Hutchinsons and the Kayvon Thibodeaux. Those are interesting options for them. You can look then at the corner position is an option for them with a guy like Sauce Gardner. You see Thibodeaux here coming off the edge at Oregon. He would give some real juice to team up with Carl Lawson to get that pass rush cranked up. So the defense is in need of help. But I do believe that through free agency and the draft, the combination of the two, Joe Douglas, having known him forever, is going to address the offensive line. He's going to keep going back to that well as he has in the last 2 off seasons. Their goal is to be able to put a fortress in front of Zach Wilson and really give him a chance.
Well, I would just like to take this opportunity to compliment you, DJ. I've known you a long time, and I never would have imagined you could keep that orchid in such good shape. The colors are still so vibrant. It is
every
still,
day.
I mean, it is as healthy as it has ever been when I first saw it arrive on that cabinet some 5 years ago.
Can I just throw in one thing? Now that I have your radio partner, Matt Money Smith, DJ, how about you and Greg Rosenthal team up? I feel like the chemistry would just explode if you had your own show.
Well, the only thing is, can you get him a robe, a white robe like the one you're wearing to wear on the show? Because I like the angel look that you have going on there. And if you can get Greg to marry that up, I'm in.
A white robe.
He is a Sherpa. He is a power ranking Sherpa lost.
Let me know. Hey,
desert.
let me know what time. Let me know what time you're getting baptized, by the way, because I want to see it, Dan. Seriously, let me know.
Take me to the river.
Move the sticks. Follow him all draft season long.
Person.
We'll see him out at the Combine. It's less than a month away. 2022 NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. The live coverage begins Thursday, March 3rd on NFL Network. Can't wait to get out to Indianapolis, where Daniel Starr shines the brightest. When we return, we're going to play the role of GM and get you some off-season tune-ups, as you described it, Dan, to get young men and their fathers, or daughters and their mothers, walking the concourse to celebrate their favorite teams for the first time in a while in the Super Bowl.
Or middle-aged men.
Next.
Just one, Jets. Get me to the game.
Cooper in motion. Dak throwing that way, and it's Clement into the end zone. And the 5th touchdown pass of the night for Dak Prescott, a career high and a record-setting mark.
Well, we continue to look forward to the 2022 campaign now that the Rams have been crowned Super Bowl champions with Dan Zeus at the helm of your Dallas Cowboys. What are the tweaks you need to make this offseason so you don't exit in a divisional round game in your own house? Oh, my, Jerry Jones. Help them. Help me out, Dan. Help me out.
Take me back to the promised land. You know what? The roster is built out really well. And Dak was a little up and down, but still, that's a really good franchise quarterback. The team is the best.
Tell me
in the
what
NFC
to
East.
do, Dan.
Maybe tune up that running game a little bit. And Ezekiel Elliott is coming off a very disappointing age 26 campaign. We learned that he suffered a PCL tear in week 4, and that explains the loss of explosiveness. But is it a situation now where you trust Zeke bouncing back at age 27? Or is Tony Pollard got to have a bigger role in this offense? Do you want to do any addressing of the offensive line? Because although they led the league in points and total yards, it was a little bit fugazi. I didn't quite buy into it. Yeah, I didn't quite buy into the Cowboys offense. The running game's got to be better.
You know what I was going to say? You know how like the quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks we're hearing, they get so many more mental reps than they ever have because of VR?
Yeah.
Like, can we do coaching VR for Mike McCarthy where he's just put in, like, it's not, hey, here's a paper, what would you do in this situation? I want him to look around and he's on the sideline in virtual reality and he's got to decide what play to call, whether or not to keep his timeout, whether or not to throw his challenge flag. Let's make a coaching VR program so something like this does not happen in 2022.
That was the play call in that spot. Unbelievable. How about the Miami Dolphins money?
I believe this to be the most interesting squad for the offseason. Everyone's excited about Mike McDaniel. We have heard that was the one assistant that Kyle Shanahan refused to let get away, that he was the big brain behind the rush attack and all the exotic formations and motions that would frustrate teams so much. So I'm excited about him getting an opportunity in Miami, but he's got some work to do. They have invested a ton of draft capital on the offensive line, and it has not managed to bear a lick of fruit. 2 2s, 1 3, and a 1 on that offensive line, and Tua is still under considerable duress. My number one priority would be figure that out. Do you have the right guys? Do you need others? And number 2, get Mike Gesicki back. He is going to be extremely popular. You saw what happened on the free agent market last year with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. You got to bring back Gesicki. Help Tua out. That's why you were hired. That's what I would do if I were. And by the way, shout out, way to get Josh Boyer back to continue the continuity on the defensive side of the ball. He was the DC under Brian Flores. They both came over from New England.
I'm still not 100% convinced that Tua is the quarterback, but I know that's
I like
what
him.
Everybody says.
I'm a fan. You get the Patriots. Let's stay in the AFC East.
The Patriots, obviously, the defense is coming off a historic meltdown against the Bills in the playoffs. So there are some pieces that need to be added there. But I think Mac Jones, coming off a really promising rookie season where he showed that he was a guy you can really potentially build around, nice. Now do the Joe Burrow Bengals move and go get him a true number 1 receiver. Give him that guy that he could, take the tops off defenses, get the ball to him in space and let the guy take off. Just give him someone special, because I think Jones has proven that he is the type of player like Tom Brady years ago. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady. That if you start to build around him and give him more weapons, you'll see him explode potentially in terms of production. So that would be the tune-up for them. Add another big playmaker on offense.
All right.
All right, I'll throw one to you. The Chargers. Your Chargers.
Oh, thanks a lot. Well, look, the offense is great. Offense seems to be fine. The one tweak I would make on offense, it looks like they're going to have to hire a new offensive line coach. Theirs got plucked to go to another squad. So, Mike Mularkey's out there. Why not go get Mike Mularkey and coach up your offensive line, right? That's a no-brainer for me. 2, they got a lot of work to do on defense. When you're dead last against on third down, and when you're bottom 3 against the run, and the reason why you're dead last on third down is you're giving up 2s and 6s and 8s, and it's 3rd and 1, and it's 3rd and 2, and there's no 3rd and 7s or 3rd and 10s out there. So you got to fix the run defense, get interior line help. You got to fix the pass defense, specifically on the outside. You got to get a big corner. Last year they tried to make it work with Chris Harris. It just didn't. So to me, that's the majority of the work. Fix the interior of the line, fix the secondary, hire. Love to see Mike Mularkey coach up that offensive line.
I'm not gassing you up here, Money, as the voice of the Chargers. Cynthia says the Raiders are her pick as a team that can make that Super Bowl jump. You fix that defense and you pair it with Herbert in that offense.
Yeah, to me,
they have a shot.
And again, it's a defense with Derwin James and Joey Bosa. So it's like you've already got 2 elite 5-star blue chip players on there to build around. We got 1 left. We're going to throw a challenge flag. And Dan Zeus has a request that will keep us all engaged all off season long. We so desperately need it. We'll get you your challenges as we wrap up the final power rankings of this season. Oh, so sad to get.
center, steps back, throws the fade, back shoulder. Cooper Kupp's got it! Touchdown, LA! Throw the throw for it. He's sacked. He throws it away. Aaron Donald got there. He signals to his ring finger on his left hand. The sideline's empty. The Los Angeles Rams are world champions.
All right, one last bit of business to get to. Our challenge flags, things we demand of yous out there that might be watching. Dan, get us started.
This is our last.
Hey, last one to throw. What did we talk about all year? Kelly, leak it. Come on, Kelly,
okay.
leak it.
But I also want to say, I want to challenge us here to hit the camera. It's our last chance. Here we go. I challenge. Pretty good. That was the best
Pretty
one.
good.
There you go. That was more a dart. All we need is one. I call it the Mount Rushmore of QB intrigue here. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray. I'm keeping Deshaun Watson out of this for a lot of reasons. But a huge QB to truly be on the trade market or open market in general and then see the league go nuts because there's so many teams looking to get better at the game's most important position. All it takes is one.
Great
That's
call.
what we're looking for.
Great call. All right, here we go. Where's my
Go. Pressure, you got to match me.
Here we go.
That's a
It just
tough
got a
way
little
to
sideways on me.
close.
You know what?
It
Yours is
didn't
a lot
even
closer.
reappear.
Yours is a lot closer. My challenge is stay out of L.A., Lebowski. That's my challenge. We had the most incredible week of weather for Super Bowl week. It is inexplainable. The week prior, we were in the 40s. Today, it's raining. Then it's 50, and it was 40 degrees last night. So don't get any ideas and pack up and move on out here. The traffic already stinks. What an awesome season. Thanks to our entire crew. Thanks to you, the viewers. We'll be back, I don't know, in a while.